The Galactic Academy stood like a shining fortress in the heart of the Concord system. Its walls of silver metal stretched high into the sky, glowing under the light of 3 suns. Every year, the strongest and brightest cadets from hundreds of alien species came here. They came to learn war, strategy, and discipline under the most feared officers in the galaxy. And this year, one new face stood out. She was human. The girl stepped off the transport ship slowly, her boots echoing on the polished floor. Around her, cadets of other species whispered and laughed. Some had scales, some had wings, some wore battle armor that looked heavier than her whole body. She looked small compared to them. Too small. Too weak. Is that it? That's the Deathworlder? One alien cadet hissed. His voice carried mockery. Fragile bones. Soft skin. She won't last a week. Another laughed. Earth sent one? Just one. Are they sending children to play soldier? The girl heard them. She said nothing. Her dark eyes looked forward, unshaken. There was a cut across her cheek, a mark from training back home. She wore it like a badge. The Galactic Academy prided itself on strength. To stand here meant you were meant for greatness. But the humans were new to the wider galaxy. Many still called them primitive. Many called them weak. And now, all of that judgment was aimed at this one cadet. Her name was Arya Kane. She walked to the registration desk. The officer behind it, a tall reptilian creature with gold armor, scanned her badge. His glowing eyes narrowed. Human, he muttered. He tilted his head. You don't belong here. This academy is for warriors, not fragile creatures. Arya lifted her chin. Earth was invited. I stand here as a cadet. That means I belong. The officer sneered, but said no more. He handed her the data pad with her training schedule. As she walked away, the whispers followed her like shadows. The training hall was massive. Alien banners hung from the ceiling. Rows of cadets stood at attention as the commanding officer entered. He was tall, with pale skin that glistened like metal. His uniform carried marks of rank. His name was Commander Vayner, feared by cadets for his brutal lessons. His eyes scanned the room until they fell on Arya. The smirk on his face was slow. Cruel. So, he said, his voice echoing across the chamber. The rumors are true. A human, a Deathworlder. You think you can stand here, among the galaxy's finest? The room fell silent. All eyes turned to Arya. She felt the weight of their stares, the judgment in their gaze. She stood straight, fists at her side. Yes, Commander, she said simply. Laughter broke out. Cadets chuckled, some even clapped mockingly. The sound rang like a cruel chorus. Commander Vayner stepped closer, towering over her. His shadow covered her completely. You are small, he said. Weak, your bones will break with one strike. You are nothing here. Less than nothing. He leaned closer, his voice cold. Do you still think you belong? Arya's heartbeat was steady. She remembered Earth. She remembered the storms, the beasts, the endless fights for survival. She remembered her father's words. Strength is not in size. It is in will. She met the commander's glowing eyes without fear. Yes, she said. A hush fell. The commander's smile faded into something harder. He looked around at the watching cadets, then back at her. Then prove it, he growled. The words hung in the air like a blade. Prove it. Arya did not flinch. She nodded once, calm, almost to calm. The commander turned away. Tomorrow, he said, combat drill. If you survive, you may stay. If not, Earth's joke ends here. The cadets around her snickered. Some whispered bets. No one believed she could last, but when Arya walked back to her quarters, her steps were steady. She carried no fear. In her heart burned a quiet fire, the kind that only Deathworld children carried. She whispered to herself, let them laugh. Tomorrow, they will see. That night, the academy buzzed with rumors. Aliens laughed in their groups, already imagining the humans' defeat. But a few cadets stayed silent. They had seen something in her eyes. Not fear, not weakness. something else, something dangerous. And when dawn came and the combat hall opened its doors, the galaxy would learn that mocking a Deathworlder was never safe. The next morning, the training hall echoed with the sound of boots and claws. Hundreds of cadets stood in lines, their armor shining under the bright lights. Weapons hung on the walls. Energy shields flickered at the edges of the arena. The hall was alive with whispers. Everyone knew what was about to happen. Today, the human cadet would face Commander Vayner's challenge. Arya Kane stood in the center of the floor. She wore the same simple uniform as the others. Nothing special, no armor. Her dark hair was tied back. Her face was calm, though inside her chest her heart beat steady and strong. The cadets around her muttered. Some laughed openly. "Look at her," one alien said. "She's trembling already." Another snorted. "Her bones will snap before she even raises a hand." But Arya didn't tremble. She breathed slowly, steady. Her eyes fixed on the ground until the sound of heavy steps filled the hall. Commander Vayner entered. His presence silenced the crowd instantly. His tall figure glowed under the light, his eyes cold and cruel. He looked like a predator walking into a cage of prey. His gaze found Arya, and his smirk returned. "Cadets." His voice thundered. "Today, you will see the truth. Some species are made for war. Others are mistakes of nature." This, he pointed a sharp finger at Arya, is one of those mistakes. Laughter erupted from the cadets. The sound echoed like waves crashing against stone. Arya did not move. She kept her eyes on him, steady and unbroken. Vayner circled her slowly, like a beast studying prey. His boots clicked against the metal floor. "Look at her size," he sneered. "So small, so fragile. If I strike her once, her arm will shatter. If I kick her, her ribs will break. And yet, her people call themselves Deathworlders. Do you find this amusing, cadets?" The room roared with cruel laughter. Cadets slapped each other's backs, mocking the idea that Earth could ever breed warriors. Arya stood still. Her hands were tight fists at her sides, but her face remained calm. Her silence made the mockery sharper, like a blade cutting skin. Vayner stopped in front of her. He leaned down, his face inches from hers. His glowing eyes searched her expression, hunting for fear. "Tell me, human," he said slowly, voice dripping with venom. "Do you really believe you can stand among us? Among warriors of the galaxy?" Arya lifted her head. Her eyes locked with his. Her voice was quiet, but it carried through the hall. "Yes." The single word struck harder than a shout. The laughter faded into silence for a heartbeat. Then, like thunder, the cadets laughed louder than before. The sound filled every corner of the arena. Vayner's smirk widened. Bold words. But empty. He straightened and raised his hand for silence. The room fell quiet at once. "Tomorrow," he said, his voice sharp as a blade, "she will prove her words. Combat drill. Before all of you, this human will face me. And when I crush her bones, when she lies broken on this floor, Earth's pride will end." The cadets cheered. Some shouted her defeat before the fight even began. Arya did not flinch. She stood as still as stone. Her heart beat steady. She had lived through storms that tore forests apart. She had fought beasts with claws sharper than steel. She had buried friends back on Earth and kept walking. One alien cadet whispered to another, "She doesn't look afraid." The other shook his head. "It won't matter. She can't win." Commander Vayner turned his back on her, walking toward the exit. But before he left, he glanced over his shoulder and spoke again, voice low and cold. "Tomorrow, human, you break." The doors closed behind him. The hall buzzed with noise once more, filled with laughter, bets, and mocking jokes. Yet in the center of the chaos, Arya Kane stood in silence, her fists still tight. She whispered only to herself. Words no one else could hear. "They don't know Earth. They don't know me. Tomorrow, they will learn." The whisper was carried away by the noise of the hall, unheard by alien ears. But the fire in her eyes spoke louder than any voice. That night, Rumors spread across the academy like wildfire. Cadets from every species filled their quarters with jokes about the human. Some were excited for the spectacle. Others were curious how long would she last before the commander broke her. But far from the noise, Arya sat alone in her room. Her hands were steady as she tightened her boots, checked her gear, and closed her eyes. She remembered the wild storms of Earth. She remembered hunting beasts twice her size. She remembered her father's words once more. Strength is not in size. It is in will. She opened her eyes, her voice steady. Tomorrow, they will see my will. And outside her window, the academy lights burned like cold stars. The combat arena was alive with energy. Its floor was smooth metal, surrounded by glowing shields that hummed like thunder. Cadets from every species filled the seats, their voices a storm of excitement. They had come not for training, but for a spectacle. Today, human would face Commander Vaynor. Arya Kane stood at the edge of the arena. She breathed slow and steady, her fists loose at her sides. She wore no heavy armor. Only her cadet uniform clung to her frame, plain and light. Around her, whispers grew louder. She won't last a minute. Her bones will snap. Watch carefully. This is the end of Earth's pride. Arya heard it all, but her face did not change. Her eyes remained fixed on the center of the arena. The door opposite hers opened with a hiss. Commander Vaynor stepped inside. His boots struck the floor like hammers. His uniform gleamed under the bright lights, and the scars across his arms spoke of years of battle. The crowd fell silent as he raised one hand in salute. Cadets. His voice echoed like thunder. Today you will see the truth. Strength rules this galaxy. The weak are broken, and no species is weaker than this so-called Deathworlder. The crowd cheered. The walls shook with their voices. Vaynor turned his gaze to Arya, his lips curled in a cruel smile. Come, human. Show us your strength, or show us your shame. The signal horn blared. The test had begun. Vaynor moved first. He charged across the arena like a storm. His size made the floor quake. His arm swung wide, a strike heavy enough to break bones. Arya stepped aside at the last instant. The blow missed, slamming into the floor with a crack. Dust scattered. Gasps rose from the crowd. Vaynor's smile widened, fast. But speed won't save you. He attacked again, a flurry of strikes each, one powerful, each one deadly. Arya dodged, her body weaving between his blows. Her movements were sharp, controlled. Her face showed no panic. The cadets watching leaned forward. They had expected her to fall at the first strike, but she had not fallen. Still, the commander pressed harder. His strikes came faster, his voice like a growl. You can't run forever. You will break. Arya's boots scraped the floor as she slid back. Her breath was steady. She had trained for this, not against him, but against Earth itself, against storms, predators, and battles that had taught her to endure. She saw his rhythm. His anger made him predictable. And in that rhythm, she found her chance. Vaynor raised his arm for another crushing strike. Arya moved forward, not back. Her hand caught his wrist. Her body twisted, every muscle pulling with perfect timing. A sharp, echoing crack split the air. The sound froze the arena. Vaynor's arm bent the wrong way, his eyes wide with shock. His mouth opened, but no sound came. The crowd gasped as one. Some stood, unable to believe what they had seen. A human cadet had done what none thought possible. Vaynor fell to one knee, clutching his broken arm. His voice came as a ragged growl. Impossible. Arya stood over him, her face calm, her breathing even. She did not gloat. She did not smile. She simply released his arm and stepped back. Whispers spread like wildfire through the crowd. She broke him. Did you see that? A human. For the first time, fear flickered in the cadets' eyes. Not fear of their commander, but fear of the girl who had stood against him and won. Vaynor pushed himself to his feet. His face twisted with rage, his glowing eyes burning with hatred. He clutched his arm, but still he stood tall. This is not over. he roared. His voice shook the arena. You think one trick makes you strong? You are nothing, human. Nothing. Arya's eyes met his. Her voice was quiet but clear. Strength is not in size. It is in will. And mine will not break. The words echoed louder than his roar. The arena fell into silence. Vayner's lips curled, but he said nothing more. His broken arm was proof enough. The horn sounded again, ending the drill. That night, the academy buzzed with stories. Some cadets whispered in awe. Others whispered in fear. She broke his arm. She stood against Vayner. Maybe humans are not weak after all. And in her quarters, Arya sat alone, staring at her hands. She remembered Earth storms, the beasts, the endless fight to survive. She whispered to herself, the fire in her voice unshaken, this is only the beginning. And outside, the galaxy began to change. The arena was still trembling with silence. Hundreds of cadets sat frozen, their eyes wide, their mouths open. They had expected to see a human crushed, broken, and humiliated. Instead, they had witnessed something unthinkable. Commander Vayner's arm hung limp at his side, twisted from the snap. His pride was shattered even more than his bones. Rage burned in his glowing eyes. Arya Kane stood before him. Her breathing was calm, steady. She did not gloat. She did not smile. She only stared at him, her fists lowered, as if the fight had not even mattered. That quiet confidence stung more than any strike. The silence broke into chaos. She broke him. A cadet shouted, "No, impossible. Humans can't do that." Another cried. Her bones should have snapped. But the truth was plain. The great Commander Vayner had been brought to his knees by the smallest cadet in the hall. Vayner's voice rose above the storm. Enough. The room froze. His body shook with rage as he pointed at Arya. You dare humiliate me in front of my cadets? You think one broken bone makes you strong? You are nothing but a mistake of nature. Arya did not answer. She kept her eyes on him, quiet, calm, but unbroken. Her silence was sharper than any insult. Vayner roared. He lunged forward with his good arm, trying to seize her throat. The crowd gasped as the towering officer moved with fury. But Arya was faster. She shifted aside, his hand slashing through empty air. She pivoted on her heel, using his own momentum. With a clean motion, she drove her shoulder into his chest. The impact sent him stumbling back, the sound of his boots scraping against the arena. Floor echoed louder than the cheers. Gasps spread through the cadets. Some stood to their feet. Others clutched their seats, eyes wide with disbelief. Vayner caught his balance, his face twisted in hatred. I will destroy you, human. He spat. Arya lifted her chin, her voice calm but strong. Then try again. The words hung in the air like fire. The clash reignited. Vayner charged again, his movements wild with anger. His broken arm slowed him, but his strength was still immense. Every step shook the arena floor. Arya moved like water, flowing around his strikes. She did not try to overpower him. She waited, watched, and let his fury make him clumsy. The crowd could feel it now. This was not luck. This was skill. Her eyes followed every twitch of his muscles, every breath, every shift in weight. She had lived on Earth, where a single mistake could mean death. Against predators, storms, and war, she had learned patience. Vayner swung down with his good arm. Arya stepped in close, too close for his strike to land. She ducked low, swept her leg, and the commander staggered. The cadets erupted in shouts. She's holding her own. Impossible, look at her move. She fights like she's trained for war all her life. Vayner roared again, his voice cracking with rage. He swung wildly, his strikes losing rhythm. His pride was bleeding, his mind clouded, and then it happened. Arya saw the opening. She darted forward, her hand locking onto his shoulder. With one swift twist of her body, she threw him across the arena floor. His body slammed against the ground. Shaking the walls, the arena went silent. Commander Vayner, broken, humiliated, and defeated, lay on the floor, staring up at the ceiling. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. Arya stood over him, her shadow cast long across his body. She did not strike again. She did not need to. The fight was over. The crowd erupted into chaos once more. Some cadets shouted in disbelief. Others whispered in fear. A few even clapped, though quietly, afraid of the commander's wrath. Did you see that? She threw him. By the stars, what are humans? Vaynor pushed himself up slowly, his pride shattered more than his bones. His eyes burned into hers with hatred. But there was something else now for. He spat on the floor and growled, "This is not finished." But Arya did not move. She only answered with calm words, "It is finished. You lost." The cadets gasped at her courage. No one had ever spoken to Commander Vaynor like that. He stormed from the arena. Clutching his broken arm, his heavy steps echoing like thunder, Arya stood alone in the center. She did not raise her fists in victory. She did not cheer. She simply looked at the crowd, and for the first time, the cadets who had mocked her did not laugh. They stared in silence. The image of a human cadet standing victorious burned into their minds. That night the academy was alive with whispers. Some cadets could not sleep, replaying the fight in their minds. The question spread from mouth to mouth. If a human cadet can do this, what could an entire army from Earth do? And somewhere in the shadows, a message traveled fast across the galaxy. A warning that would reach worlds far beyond the academy walls. Do not mock the Deathworlders. The next morning, the academy was buzzing like a hive. Whispers rushed through the halls faster than footsteps. Every corner, every mess hall. Every training room carried the same words. The human broke him. She threw Commander Vaynor. Earth's cadet. She's dangerous. The story spread like fire, burning through walls and echoing into every mind. Cadets who had laughed the loudest now avoided Arya's gaze. Those who had mocked her fragile bones now lowered their voices when she walked past. Arya Kane walked through the halls silently. She did not smile, nor did she show pride. She carried herself the same way as always, steady, calm, unshaken. Yet her presence was heavier now. Wherever she went, whispers followed her like shadows. In the training yard, two insectoid cadets clicked their mandibles nervously. "She shouldn't be here," one hissed. "But she is," the other replied. "And she's stronger than any of us thought." Nearby, a scaled cadet muttered to his companion, "If a human cadet can break a commander's arm, what will happen if Earth sends more? What if their armies arrive?" The words lingered. Fear crept into voices that once carried mockery. Commander Vaynor did not appear for morning drills. His broken arm was being treated in the med bay, but his pride would take far longer to heal. Officers tried to carry on as normal, but the cadets' attention drifted. Their minds were still trapped in the moment they had seen with their own eyes, the arrogant commander on his knees, the human standing tall. The echo of that memory was louder than any order barked at them. Later that day, a council chamber filled with voices. Senior officers, instructors, and representatives from various species sat in a circle. Discussing the incident, "It is unacceptable," one barked, his horns curving high above his head. A cadet striking a superior officer? "Discipline must be enforced." Another shook her scaled head. "Discipline, yes. But can we ignore what we all saw? That human fought with skill. She did not break rules, she defended herself." Murmurs filled the chamber. Some demanded punishment, others demanded answers. Finally, a voice of calm authority cut through. It belonged to Admiral Sarek, an elder with silver skin and eyes that glowed faintly. "This is not about punishment. This is about truth. We have underestimated Earth, and now the galaxy will hear the story." The chamber fell silent. They all knew he was right. Meanwhile, Arya sat alone in her quarters. The room was small, metal walls lined with nothing but a single bed and a desk. She tied the laces on her boots carefully. Her movements slow and focused. Her body ached from the fight, but her spirit felt steady. She thought of home of storms that tore across Earth's oceans, of forests where predators hunted without mercy. She remembered her father's voice. Strength is not in size. It is in will. She whispered the words again softly. It is in will. Outside her door, footsteps passed. She could hear the whispers even here. Some feared her. Some admired her. All of them remembered her. The echo was growing louder. That evening, the mess hall was unusually quiet. Cadets ate in silence, sneaking glances at Arya, where she sat alone at her table. A group of armored reptilian cadets whispered nearby. She doesn't look dangerous, neither does a storm, until it tears your house apart. At another table, insectoid cadets clicked nervously. If she can break an officer, what will she do when war comes? Their words carried the truth. It wasn't just about Arya anymore. It was about Earth. In the outer colonies, word spread even faster. Messages left the academy, carried by cadets to their families, by officers to their homeworlds. Across the stars, the tale grew larger with every retelling. Human cadets shattered a commander's arm, a Deathworlder threw a warrior twice her size. Earth's children are not weak. Fear spread like smoke through corridors of power. In hidden chambers of alien governments, voices rose in alarm. If this is one human, what would an army look like? Have we invited danger into the galaxy? Back at the academy, night fell. The stars outside the windows glowed like silent witnesses. Arya stood at the window of her quarters, her reflection staring back at her. She did not care for whispers or fear. She cared only for truth, that Earth was not weak. She would prove it again and again if she had to. She raised her hand to the glass, her fingers brushing her own reflection. The fire in her eyes burned steady. The echo of her actions had begun to shake the galaxy, and deep inside, Arya knew this was only the beginning. The Academy's council chamber was a circle of steel and glass. Glowing banners of alien empires hanging from the high walls. The air was heavy, not with ceremony, but with tension. Today, the fate of one cadet would be decided. Arya Kane stood alone in the center of the chamber. Her uniform was plain, her posture calm. Her eyes scanned the faces of the council members sitting above her on a raised platform. Every one of them carried judgment in their gaze. To her left, Commander Vaynor stood with his arm in a sling. His face was twisted with anger, his pride wounded far deeper than his body. His voice cut through the silence like a blade. "This human cadet is a disgrace," he shouted. She raised her hand against a superior officer. "She humiliated me before the academy. If she is not punished, then order itself collapses." Some council members nodded in agreement. Others leaned back, silent, waiting. Arya did not speak. She stood steady, her eyes fixed ahead. An insectoid counselor leaned forward, her mandibles clicking. But the records are clear. Commander Vaynor struck first. The human defended herself. Vaynor's face darkened. She should have yielded. A cadet does not fight a commander. She should have bowed, not broken bones. A reptilian counselor hissed. Perhaps she could not bow. Perhaps humans do not yield so easily. The chamber murmured with divided voices. Some demanded punishment, others questioned the truth. At last Admiral Serac raised his hand. The murmurs stopped instantly. His silver skin glowed faintly under the lights, and his calm eyes scanned both Arya and Vaynor. "Bring the record," Serac commanded. A projection filled the chamber. The fight replayed in sharp detail, the commander's mocking words, lunges, Arya's movements, and finally, the snap of his arm. Gasps echoed, even though many had already seen it. When the recording ended, silence fell again. Serac's voice was steady. "The truth is clear. The human cadet did not attack first. She defended herself. Her skill was unexpected, but skill is not crime." Vaynor's voice cracked with rage. "Skill? That was defiance. If this human remains, others will see weakness in our order. Do you not understand? She made me bleed in front of them all." Serac turned his gaze on him. "And perhaps that is the lesson, Commander. You mocked her strength. You underestimated her will. and for that you were broken. The words struck harder than any fist. Vaner's face twisted, but he had no answer. The council members whispered among themselves. Some were unsettled. Some were impressed. But one thing was certain. The galaxy had just witnessed a truth they could not ignore. The insectoid counselor spoke again. This cadet proves something. Earth is not weak. If one of their children can defeat a seasoned officer, what else are they capable of? A murmur rippled. A horned counselor leaned forward. Perhaps Earth is dangerous. Perhaps we made a mistake letting them into the academy. Another voice countered. Or perhaps we made the right choice. Better to know their strength here than face it in battle one day. The debate grew sharper. Some wanted her expelled. Others wanted her studied. A few whispered of using her as proof of alliance with Earth. Arya stood silent through it all. Her heartbeat was steady. She was not here to beg. She was not here to prove anything to them with words. Her actions had already spoken louder. At last, Admiral Sarak raised his hand again. The chamber fell silent. Cadet Arya Kane, he said. His voice carried weight, steady as stone. This council finds you not guilty of wrongdoing. You acted in defense. You will remain in the academy. Gasps filled the hall. Some in anger. Some in shock. Some in fear. Vaner's fists tightened. His voice came low and bitter. This is a mistake. A grave mistake, Sarak. Ignored him. His gaze stayed on Arya. But know this, Cadet. The eyes of the galaxy are upon you now. You carry not only your name, but the weight of your world. Do not falter. Arya nodded once. I will not. Her voice was quiet. But it carried through the chamber like a promise. When she left the council chamber, cadets filled the halls outside. They stared as she walked past, whispers chasing her every step. She stays? The council allowed her? Humans are more dangerous than we thought. Some looked at her with respect, others with fear, a few with hatred. But none looked at her as weak anymore. Arya walked forward, her boots steady against the floor. She did not look at them. She did not need to. The echo of her actions was already louder than any whisper, and deep inside, she knew something greater was coming. The trial had ended, but the true test had only begun. The council's decision spread through the academy like fire through dry fields. Cadet Arya Kane would stay. She would train alongside them. She would not be punished. For many, it was a shock. For some, it was fear. For a few, it was quiet respect. But outside the academy walls, whispers traveled farther and faster. Reports left the station, carried by encrypted channels across the stars. Across military posts, trade routes, and hidden war councils, the same question grew louder. What is Earth? That evening, a mandatory assembly gathered every cadet into the great amphitheater. Banners of alien empires hung high above. The seats stretched in circles around the central stage, where a single glowing podium stood. Admiral Sarak appeared on the stage, his silver skin gleaming under the lights. His calm voice silenced the room instantly. Cadets, he began, you have seen with your own eyes what happened in the arena. A commander mocked and then broken. A cadet underestimated and then victorious. Many of you still ask the same question. How can a human stand against a seasoned warrior? He paused, his glowing eyes sweeping over the hall. Today, you will learn the truth. A projection appeared behind him. Stars lit the air. A small blue planet turned slowly, its green lands and wide oceans glowing in the dark. Earth, Sarak said. The home of the human race. A world we once ignored, believing it fragile, but looks deceive. Earth is no paradise. Earth is a death world. Gasps rippled through the cadets. Some leaned forward in disbelief. Others froze, their eyes wide. Sarah continued. On Earth, storms tear across continents. Volcanoes erupt without warning. The air itself shifts with fire, wind, and ice. The seas are filled with predators large enough to swallow ships. The forests are alive with venom and claws. The projection shifted. Images appeared waves higher than towers, lightning storms striking the ground in blinding flashes. Beasts with teeth like blades. And through it all, Sarek said, humans survived. They did not merely endure, they thrived. The cadets murmured. A feathered alien whispered, no wonder she moves like that. A scaled warrior muttered. Their world forged her. The images shifted again. Wars, ancient and modern, lit the projection. Cities rebuilt after destruction. Soldiers marching under banners. People standing strong, even in ruins. Humans fight not only their world, Sarek said, but themselves. They have built nations, then torn them down. They have fought wars, then risen from the ashes. Their history is fire and blood, yet always they rise again. This is why a single cadet could break a commander. This is why we must no longer laugh at Earth. The chamber fell silent. Sarek's voice lowered. The galaxy must understand. Earth is not weak. Earth is warning. Arya sat among the cadets, her face calm. She had known these truths her whole life. She had lived them. But now, the galaxy was hearing them too. For the first time, the weight of Earth's story hung heavy in alien hearts. Beside her, Tillian Cadet shifted uncomfortably. He whispered to his friend, if one cadet is this strong, what happens when Earth sends an army? The friend whispered back, then the galaxy will tremble. After the assembly, cadets filled the halls with whispers louder than ever before. They live with storms like that? Her strength makes sense now, but fear lingered too. Some cadets avoided her entirely, their eyes lowering whenever she passed. Others watched her with new respect, their gazes sharp and thoughtful. For Arya, nothing had changed. She walked the halls with the same calm step, but she could feel the difference. No one laughed anymore. No one called her fragile. Now, they measured her with the same seriousness they gave predators. In the shadows of the academy, Commander Vayner seethed. His arm was still healing, but his pride burned hotter than his pain. He had listened to the revelation with clenched teeth, and with every word his hatred grew sharper. They fear her now, he growled to himself. They fear Earth, but fear can be turned into hate, and hate can destroy. His vow was silent, but it carried the promise of revenge. Dashed far above the academy, messages spread across the stars. Worlds that once mocked Earth now whispered in fear. In government halls, leaders debated. In military strongholds, generals began to plan. Some wanted to ally with Earth. Others wanted to prepare against them. The revelation had changed everything that night. Arya stood at her window again, staring at the endless stars. Her reflection looked back at her, steady and calm. She thought of Earth's storms, beasts, and endless struggle. She thought of her people. She thought of the whispers spreading across the galaxy. Her hand touched the glass. Her voice was soft but strong, they know now. They know who we are. But they have seen only one of us. They do not know how many more are waiting. The fire in her eyes glowed brighter than the stars. The revelation had begun, and the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. The academy never returned to normal. Every hall, every training yard, every classroom carried the same whispers. Cadets still spoke of drills, tactics, and weapons, but always their voices circled back to the same story. The human cadet who broke a commander's arm. Some spoke with fear, some spoke with respect, and some spoke with quiet anger. Their pride still stung, but no one laughed anymore. Arya Kane walked through the halls with the same calm steps as before. She never bragged. She never reminded anyone of what happened. She trained, she studied, she followed orders. Yet her silence carried more weight than speeches. When she entered a room, voices lowered. When she stepped onto the training floor, eyes followed her. When she fought in drills, cadets no longer mocked her. They studied her. She had become something larger than a cadet. She had become a symbol. Beyond the academy walls, the story spread farther. Outposts repeated the tale. Traders whispered it across stations. Officers debated it in war rooms. The galaxy had mocked Earth for centuries, calling it backward, fragile, unworthy of attention. Now, those same voices spoke in hushed tones. If one cadet can do this, what will happen if Earth sends more? What kind of army could they raise? The fear grew. The respect grew. And with it, a legend began to take shape. One evening, in the Academy's mess hall, Arya sat alone with her tray. Around her, the room buzzed with low conversation. Across the hall, a feathered cadet leaned close to his squad mates. "They call her the Storm Cadet now," he whispered. "They say Earth trains warriors born from chaos." Another cadet nodded. "She doesn't fight like us. She fights like her world is always trying to kill her." Their whispers reached farther than they knew, in the training yard. Younger cadets watched her drills with wide eyes. Some imitated her movements. Others simply stood in silence, trying to understand the fire behind her calm expression. One whispered almost reverently, "She's proof. Humans are real warriors." Another shivered. "Or monsters." Commander Vayner returned weeks later. His arm had healed, but his pride never would. The scar in his spirit burned hotter than any wound. He watched her from across the yard, his eyes narrow, his fists clenched. Hatred churned in him, but beneath that hatred was something far worse. Fear. "She humiliated me," he muttered, "and the galaxy celebrates her for it. But this isn't over. I will break her. I will break all of them." His vow hung in the air like poison, in the higher councils of the galaxy. The whispers turned into debates. Admirals, governors, and rulers met behind closed doors. Some demanded alliances with Earth. Others demanded walls and weapons. A few suggested war before Earth grew stronger. The name of one cadet had unsettled empires. Arya did not seek fame. She did not seek fear. She only trained harder. She knew what her victory had unleashed. The galaxy would not forget, and Earth's name would never again be spoken with laughter at night. She stood by the Academy's wide windows. Staring into the endless stars, she thought of her people back home, children running through dangerous forests. Farmers braving violent storms, soldiers standing guard at the edges of wild lands. She thought of the strength they carried, forged not in safety, but in struggle. "They do not understand," she whispered. "I am not special. I am only one of many." The reflection of her eyes in the glass burned with steady fire. Months later, when new cadets arrived at the Academy, their first whispers were not about the banners or the officers. They were about the human. "Is it true? Did she break him? Is she really from Earth? They say her people are Deathworlders, monsters in human skin." And the legend grew. One evening, an alien cadet approached her nervously. His voice shook, but his eyes carried respect. "Cadet Kane," he said softly, "tell me, is it true? Are all humans like you?" Arya looked at him, calm and quiet. She did not boast. She did not lie. "No," she said. Then, after a pause, her voice sharpened. "Some are stronger." The cadet froze. His breath caught in his throat. And in that single moment, the legend of Earth grew sharper, deeper, more terrifying. The galaxy had once mocked Earth. They had once called its people fragile. But now, they spoke the name of humans with caution, with respect, with fear. The officers' broken bones had healed. The fracture in galactic arrogance would never heal. Arya Kane had lit the spark. The echo had become a fire, and the legend of Deathworlders had begun.